Thanks, Harry. Thank you for having me. It's always humbling to have a guy who has a $400 million company saying great things about me when I only have a $125 million company. But thank you. So I've been a VAR for, I was talking to some of the folks, I've been a VAR for 30 years. I've been doing this forever. And I have to tell you, at the risk of my presentation seeming negative, I've seen it all. And I love being a VAR. I love being a VAR. I used to be kind of embarrassed about being, I love the fact that we're calling it a solution provider now, right? Because we're kind of, VAR is a dirty word, but, you know, I used to be embarrassed of being a VAR. I'd go to parties and I'd say, I do all these fancy things except being a VAR. And now I just kind of resign myself to it. I'm a VAR, right? So it is what it is. So I love it. All my friends say to me, so let me understand this. You're in a business where you sell products from people who also sell products to your same customer direct, and you love this. If you're so smart, why don't you do something else? And I always say, maybe I'm not that smart. I always say the reason I'm a VAR is I have a very good vision, I think, of what the technology will look like in 36 months. I think if I had a good vision of what the technology would look like in 5 years, I'd probably be a vendor. But maybe I'm not that smart. So I love what I do. Okay. So I've been on TV for a long time, and there's lots of things people, you know, when you're on TV, you're a product. You're no different than the products we all sell. And so the first, you know, my wife one time got in the green room where people were watching the show, the executives from Sony and ABC, and afterwards, they didn't know who she was. I said to her, how'd it go? And she goes, you don't want to know. Because they say everything about you. He's an idiot. Why did he say that? So you get criticized for everything, because really you're just a product. You're a product that people see. The worst thing anybody can say about you on TV is not that you're fat, is not that you're short, is not that you're bald, is not that you're anything, is that you're boring. Because boring, you can't fix. Everything else, hair extensions, lifts, makeup, we can fix everything else. We can't fix boring. So I hope the only thing I don't do for you today is bore you. So, told my daughter I was doing a speech. She's 15, and she said, Daddy, I'm learning how to do speeches. Best way to start a speech is with a joke. There's 3 guys, they're on their way to heaven. They're standing outside the pearly gates. The Lord comes up to the first one and says, how many times did you cheat on your wife? Guy says, 20 times. Lord says, when you get to heaven, you have to drive a smart car for all eternity. Goes to the next guy. How many times did you cheat on your wife? Guy says, 3 times, Lord. Lord says, better, not great, better. You get to drive a Volvo for all eternity. Goes to the third guy. Says, how many times did you cheat on your wife? Guy says, never, Lord, not even once. Says, you, my friend, you get to drive the LaFerrari 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, 950 horsepower for all eternity. Woo! They get into heaven. First 2 guys see the third guy a couple of weeks later sitting on the side of the road crying. They go up to him and go, why are you crying? You get to drive a Ferrari every day. He goes, I know, but I just saw my wife go by on a scooter. So I didn't know Harry was going to talk about the stuff we do, so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about our business, but I kind of just wanted to make a point. The TV stuff is not really what I do. You know, it's funny, most people think I have money. Most of my relatives now think I'm rich because I'm on TV. For the 30 years I've been running businesses, they never thought I was a success. But now that I'm on TV, must be successful. So like Harry said, I was retired for 3 years. I went back to work, and our first year, we had a fantastic plan. We thought we were big guys, and we've been out in the industry for a few years, so we thought, let's hang a shingle on the door, because everybody knows us, and people will just come and buy stuff from us. And so we went out. We started the company, and it was great. Everybody took our call. Everybody let us buy them lunch. Every client let me pay for their golf. Every client let me buy them dinner. And then it came time to buy. And we learned a very, very valuable lesson. People said, you know, Robert, you're great. And your people are great. But I'm dealing with Bob now. And you know, Bob's okay. So if Bob makes a mistake, I'll give you a call. And what we learned out of that is nobody leaves good enough for potentially better. And so we had to go right back to the drawing board. We had to find technology that our customers didn't have, didn't know they needed, and the vendors weren't going to sell them. And so we found anti-spam, which today seems self-evident, but think 10 years ago, nobody thought it was a security issue. So we started, we did 400,000 in the first year, and like Harry said, we finished at about 125 million last year. So in Canada, that's pretty good, right? Like, Canada's really not that big. Just to give you an idea, the entire GDP of Canada is less than the state of California. Some of the vendors I'm sure everybody in this room knows, we have a real love-hate relationship with our vendors, by the way, as I'm sure everyone does. Some of our customers, a big part of our business is managed services. We have a big secure facility, 25,000 square feet, and we do a lot of intrusion prevention and SIM management and all kinds of stuff. It's a great business. I love it. And we have this fancy glass that changes. So I love it. I love it. I read about it. I wake up at night thinking about it. While I'm sitting on Shark Tank in between pitches, this is what I'm doing. But the funny thing is, what I've learned is I'm the only guy who loves it, and the people in this room. When I go to cocktail parties with my wife, being a VAR really isn't that interesting. You know, so what do you do? Well, I'm in blah, 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 blah. And they don't understand it. And inevitably, I end up telling people I'm in the computer business, and people then end up asking me how to fix a software program on their PC. And I say, I don't really know a lot about computers. And then they go to my wife and they go, oh, you're in trouble. I don't think he's going to make it. The funny thing is, once I got on Shark Tank, everybody wanted to talk to me, right? It's a whole different conversation at parties. I love this quote from Shark Tank. Every dream has a price. You know, I've met a lot of people. I've been very lucky. One of the great things about being on a big show is you get to meet a lot of very interesting people. And I've met a lot of very, very successful people. And I'll tell you, they come in all shapes and sizes. But the consistency across all of them is they love what they do. I've never met a billionaire who doesn't want to talk my ear off about his industry or about his company or about what they do. And, you know, I always say, everybody wants to be successful, but very few people are willing to pay the price. Because the price, especially in this business, is very exacting. So the premise of the show is people come on, and by the way, the show's very real. We know nothing about the people when they come out. Even my friends, I did it in Canada for 7 years. To this day, my friends don't believe me. They're like, oh, you're so full of crap. They must give you some background on these people. We know nothing about them. People come in front of us. The average pitch is about an hour, and that gets edited into 4 minutes. So the premise of the show is we are ultra successful, smart business guys. We know everything. There is nothing we don't know. I mean, people come out with industries I've never heard of, and inevitably somebody in the panel says, well, I know the trading multiples of that industry. And I think, how do they know that? But that's the premise. I always tell people, we're not always right. This guy comes on the show, and he is the Mohican leader of the Aboriginal people of some region. And he has a board game. And for those of you that don't know, board games don't do very well on our show. The mean bald guy always says, take it in the back and burn it. So he comes out in this board game, and it doesn't go well. Like, it kind of like, why did you come out here? You're wasting our time. I'm going to send you an invoice for my time, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, 2 years later, the Aboriginal people of North America asked me to come and present at their annual Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. So I'm really busy. I fly to this city to give out the award. I get out of my car. As I'm walking up on the stage and they hand me the paper, who I'm presenting to, it's this guy. He's sold 600,000 games. It was basically like a Monopoly game. So 2 years later, he's ultra successful when all 5 of us told him he was basically an idiot. But you know, sometimes we are right. This was a product that came out, and you know, we sit there 12 hours a day filming. It's very, very hard for me to sit. So anything that comes out that I can play with, I'm all over that. So this lady comes out with this ball. So I hop in the ball, and I'm hopping up and down, and you know, having fun, and you can move around with it, and I can't breathe. And I'm like, whew, not a lot of air in here. And she goes, I know, it's completely airtight. So I'm like, oh, how long does the air last? She goes, 45 minutes. And here's the great thing. You can't open it from the inside. And I say, why? And she goes, well, in case you're floating on the water and you hit it by accident, so the air doesn't come in. We've thought of everything. So I say, crazy concept. I get in the ball and I float away and nobody knows. What do I do? She's like, oh. She spent 18 months working on this, raised $50,000 from family and friends to get to that point. You know, I always tell people, don't go to your family and friends for advice. Well, unless Harry's your dad or somebody in this industry, but don't go to your family and friends, because your family and friends' job is to love you, not to give you business advice. $50,000 to get here. So the show, like Harry said, is a big success now. We're the highest rated show on ABC on Friday nights in a long, long time. We're getting anywhere from 7 to 10 million viewers, blah, 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 blah. It's really great. And you know, being on a hit show, you get to meet a lot of rich and powerful and interesting people. You know, I was at a party with Warren Buffett and Katie Couric. By the way, that woman next to me where I'm wearing the purple shirt, that's Raquel Welch. Yeah. That woman is 73. I made the horrible mistake of taking that picture home to my wife and saying, you better look like this at 73. It didn't go well. Anyway, I get to meet a lot of really, really interesting people. The picture in the middle is Wayne Gretzky because I'm Canadian. And of course, to every Canadian, he is the ultimate celebrity. But this is the picture all my guy friends really want to know. They're like, what is going on there? My wife has never seen that picture. I'm still alive. And, you know, you get to do really, really cool things. Like I got to present at the Emmys this year. That's me standing behind Neil Patrick Harris. You know, I got to ring the opening bell at NASDAQ. I mean, I get to do really cool stuff. And, you know, I got to tell you, this stuff goes to your head. I don't care who you are, but your ego can get pretty big. I got to tell you, there are days where I think I'm the real deal. There are days where I wake up in the morning and my head can't fit through the doorway. Oh, yeah. There are days where I wake up and I think, I'm Brad Pitt. You know, the unfortunate reality, though, is when I wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, I don't see Brad Pitt looking back at me. I see this guy looking back at me. So I'm at a Robin Williams concert, and I'm sitting in the front row, and he comes on stage, he's doing his shtick, and he comes over to where I am, and he pauses. So I hit my wife, and I say, he's looking at me. And my wife says, you're so full of yourself. He continues with his routine. The show's over. After the show, one of his people comes up to me and says, Mr. Williams would like to see you backstage if you don't mind. So I go backstage and he says, you freaked me out so much. You look just like me. So I'm feeling, if my mom was in this picture, I swear to God, you would think we were separated at birth. So I'm thinking, I look like a big famous celebrity. So he says, can we get a picture? And I said, absolutely. So I put my hand around him, and I realized he's 15 years older than I am. He's the hairiest human being I've ever seen. And he's really not that attractive. And I look just like Robin Williams. So this is one of my funny ways to make the lesson. The biggest lies you tell in life are the ones you tell yourself. This is how every VAR sees himself or herself. As a great white shark swimming through the waters, eating everything in its way, ultra successful. This is how your customer sees you. I get in front of our salespeople, and we do this all the time, and say, tell me why we're better. Why are we the great white shark? Oh, Robert, it's because we provide better customer service. We're more responsive because we're better. And I always say, do you think that the guy that came in after you says, we suck? Don't buy from us. Buy from the other guys. How many calls does a customer get from VARs? How many unwashed masses of VARs are there out there? How hard in this day and age is it to start a VAR? Distributors will give you financing. I mean, how many partners did Dell say they had yesterday? Was it 160,000? This is what your customers are getting bombarded with every day. And this is the evolution of most VARs. Right? They start out as a monkey and end up as Homer, which isn't much of an evolution. So why do most VARs never become big businesses? And, I've bought a number of VARs over the years. I've been doing this for 30 years. And I got to tell you, it always inevitably comes down to the owner. There's two types of VARs that are being run. One is being run by a business person, and the other one is being run by somebody who is an engineer or a sales guy. And there's a fundamental difference between a sales guy, an engineer, and a business owner. I go to trade conferences all the time, and people say to me, what business are you in? I say, well, what business are you in? And they say, well, I'm in the software business, or I'm in the hardware business, or I'm in the consulting business. They wear it like a badge of pride, because being in the software business is better than being in the hardware business or the consulting business. And so people say to me, what business are you in? And I say, I'm in business. Number one, period. It doesn't matter what comes afterward. First thing I'm in is in business. And, I think what makes the VAR business really difficult is its constant change. And most people that aren't in our business think of change like this. It's a fluffy, wonderful kitten. And it's soft. And it goes, meow. And, we all get in front of our people and we say, guess what? We're going to change again. And we're so cool with it. And we have a game plan. And we think everybody in this room is on board. But you know what the people, when you tell them about change, see? Ah! Change again. Change is very difficult because it creates a lot of stress. And change is not a fluffy kitten. Change is bloody. By the way, speaking of stress, this is an actual flashcard from a stress test that they use to test your level of stress. So they show you these flashcards, and at the end, they ask you how many dolphins were there. And if you don't see the cow and you say 2 dolphins, they call the hospital right away. So if somebody's sitting here going, what the hell is he talking about? There's 2 dolphins up there. Leave right now. Go home. The other thing I love about my partners is this whole concept of friendly coopetition. We can all get along. You know, the vendors in our world paint the landscape as a bunch of friendly competitors where we all get out there and we run a race and, you know, we want to win, but we're going to run a fair race. And then after we're done competing, we're all going to go have a beer, right? Because we're all good guys or good people, and we just want to get along. I don't know what world my vendors are living in, because the people I compete with don't want to have a beer with me. The people I compete with, they want to kill me. You know, the people I compete with don't sit around and say, how can I make Robert more successful? How can I help Robert make more money so he can buy another Ferrari? The people I compete with want to kill me. We are in a zero-sum game. When you win a deal, somebody lost. We don't create stuff from nothing. It's not like we created the iPad and all of a sudden people are buying 1 million iPads. Every deal that you win, somebody lost. And I got to tell you, those people, they don't like you. They don't want you to be successful. So every vendor I have comes in and tells me this: we love you. You're wonderful. You're the best. Let me tell you how we're going to be successful together. Just before they sign up 20 other people in my region. You're our go-to guy, Robert. But didn't you just sign? Yeah, oh yeah, but they're different. You're my go-to guy. Then they tell me why it needs to be in. You know what I love now is this whole concept of deal reg. Every vendor I say, how am I going to protect my margin? And they say, deal reg. Then every time I try to get a deal reg, they say, we're not giving anybody deal reg on this one because we need an equal playing field. Who in their right mind wants a frigging equal playing field? I've worked 30 years, so I don't have to have an equal playing field. Why do vendors think that this is good news to me? They need to cut my margin on renewals and keep more of it. Why I need more certification and I have to pay for it. Tell me how back-end rebates will make up my margin. You know, I always think, if I was making good margin in the first place, I wouldn't need any back-end rebates. How they need to control the sale. You know, the one thing that really pisses us off is when the vendors tell us it's their customer. How they tell me it's their customer, and they tell me how I should be happy on single-digit margins. And I got to tell you, I've been traveling around the world looking at different VARs and trying to expand. Margins are definitely going down. I mean, as sure as the sun comes up tomorrow, whatever you're making on product today, even with the back-end rebates, it's going down. So I think that vendor relationships are like this. You know, he's a little bit older than her. She has certain attributes, and he has certain attributes. And I say, there is nothing wrong with this picture. They're both getting out of that relationship what they need today. But you know, this relationship isn't going to end well. There is a day coming when it's going to end badly. And I inevitably feel like most of our vendor relationships are going to end up like that. And I'm not trying to be negative, but I got to tell you, if the vendor's really successful, if I'm really successful selling a new vendor's product, somebody in marketing, a head office, is going to look at a statistic and say, wow, if Robert could sell so many, think how many more we could sell if we signed up 20 other people. And if they're not successful, who cares? I'm not selling it anyway. You know, the other thing I think that makes our business very hard is the pace of change. You got to go fast. Like, you got to go. But at the same time, if you go too fast, speed can hurt. So that was my race car on the track, and this was my race car in a part of the track that I shouldn't have been in. You know, and I think people have a very hard time with that because we look for finality. We either look at, should we go really fast or should we take our time? And I think what's hard about our industry is you have to do both at the same time. You know, I always say death is almost always fatal. Most people see risk as standing on the edge of a cliff and jumping off. So how often do you think, oh my God, for me to grow, I got to take those big bets. I got to take those big risks in order to grow my business. I always say, don't ever take a risk that could kill you. Because once you're dead, it's very, very difficult to come back. Here's the other thing I see with a lot of VARs. So this from a famous movie, right? Pretty Woman. So everybody knows what Julia Roberts did in that movie. And there's a fundamental basis to her relationship with Richard Gere. He paid for her time. How many of us, including me, give services for free? I'll tell you something. Free is not a sale. Free is free. If your people are selling your services for free, they ain't selling. Anybody in this room with no sales training can sell stuff for free. Now, there's a great saying, one of the guys on the show always says, I always say, you know, you can't buy love. And he always says, yeah, but you can rent it for a few hours. Here's the other element that I see in successful VARs and not successful VARs, is marketing. I went to a great presentation upstairs on social media marketing about LinkedIn and that stuff I didn't know. You know, before I was on TV, here was my view of marketing. As long as we're better, people will find us. One of the biggest fallacies we see on our show is, and by the way, it's very, very hard to get on our show. 42,000 Americans applied to be on our show last year. 240 were brought to LA. And out of the 240, we probably saw about 180 because we talk a lot. So it's hard to get through all of them. Consistently, the one flaw I see in people, just like in most VARs, is the better mousetrap concept. They believe if they build a better mousetrap in the cold darkness of their basement, the world will beat a path to their door. Well, I'll tell you something. Nobody cares about you. The world will not go out and find you. You have to put yourself out there. And this was really hard concept for me that I had to learn when I got on TV. Because as an IT guy, I was like, oh, I don't want to be too out there. Oh, I don't want to market too much. I just need to do a better job. And here's one of the clues I look when I acquire VARs. I say, tell me about your marketing strategy. And they say, I'll tell you my marketing strategy. Word of mouth. And I always say, you know, word of mouth is not a marketing strategy. I think the other reason VARs are a very difficult business is there's a lot of tough decisions you have to make. So the box at the top here is called the VitalLink bridge. And the box on the bottom is a Cisco router. I was the first and largest VitalLink bridge distributor in Canada. This is a long, long time ago. So before there were routers, there were bridges. And I remember sitting in meetings with the folks from VitalLink saying, Cisco will never take off because why would anybody ever want to route when everybody's already got these things called bridges? I had this epiphany, and I said, I've seen the future. I went back to my company and I said, we're not selling bridges anymore. We're going to sell all this other stuff. And it's so exciting. Let's go. And everybody in my company looked at me with a blank stare and said, yeah, but I make money on selling the other stuff today. I don't want to go down that road. And I still had to go down that road. We lost half our revenue the following year because I made this courageous decision to get into a new technology. It's very difficult to make those kind of decisions. So, you know, in summary, 10 tips for running a VAR. Don't lie to yourself. You're not Brad Pitt. Change or die. Be fast, but remember, speed can kill. It's a battle. You know, everybody in this room who's been successful has a small part of you that wakes up and says, this is really good. I wish it could stay like this for a long time. That is the beginning of the end. Because if you want the victory, be prepared for the fight. She loves you now. Partnerships are transitory. Free is not a sale. Put yourself out there. Hope is not a course of action. Your enemies are not your friends. You got to make tough decisions, and you have to survive. And I purposely put 11 on there because as a VAR, you always have to give people more. And my final slide is I have to give credit to Mark Cuban, who's on our show. And I heard this from him 4 seasons ago, and I love this quote. I have it in granite above my desk, and it says, every day someone wakes up with the sole intention of kicking your ass. While you're sitting here, one of your competitors is trying to steal a deal from you right now. And with those wonderful words, have a great day.
Thank you, Robert. That was terrific. I know everybody here appreciated it, and we thank you for taking the time. Mr. Fletcher, I think you have something special for both Robert and Harry. Harry, why don't you start working your way up as well?
Thank you.
I got a little worried there when you said that somebody's trying to kick their ass right now, that they were going to clear the room. We have any audience left.
I think they know that.
But that happens. As most of you know, we do have an award ceremony here tomorrow, but I think they're closing the Canadian border, and a couple of gentlemen have to get out early. Either that or I don't know, maybe the exchange rate is changing and they won't be able to get back in. So we need to do a couple of them now. So let me start with Robert. Great speech. I think great recommendations there. And look, at everybody in this audience does swim with the sharks every day. It's the first time we've actually had the opportunity to get some advice from a shark. So this event's all about bringing the elite group of the channel together and talk about that solution provider ecosystem, about strategy, what works, where the future opportunity is. So it's an honor for us here at CRN and the channel company to recognize the entrepreneurial spirit of you and the Herjavec group, which we're thrilled to have here at the conference and hope you and wish you great success. The Herjavec group is growing rapidly. A few stats. 10 years ago, 75% of the solution provider 500 today was not on that list 10 years ago. It was a pretty shocking number when you really think about it. The Herjavec group is growing rapidly, jumping from number 440 in 2010 with 31 million on the SP 500 to 210 at number 160 with 125 million this year. So really, really rapid growth. Was any of that through acquisition, or was that all?
Yeah, a couple of small acquisitions.
But mostly organic growth.
Yeah.
Right. So they're certainly doing something right. The company's expanded its footprint in the security space. It was founded on by adding managed services, storage, virtualization. In the end, all of this takes hard work. We all know that. We all believe that. It's paid off in growth for the Herjavec group and recognition by its customers and its suppliers. Most recently, Palo Alto named them the Canadian Partner of the Year. We'd like to add another trophy to the company trophy case, so please join me in congratulating the winner of the CRN SP Security Elite Award to the Herjavec.
Thank you very much.
And Harry, if you would for a minute here. Harry is actually one of the founding SPs of this event. It was really Harry and a group of guys that really helped us get this off of the ground, and we're forever grateful for that. Our executive of the year, Harry, developed an interest in computers while finishing his PhD at the University of Toronto, where he started building PCs in the basement of his Toronto home. Why didn't you become Michael Dell? It was a very similar concept, basement versus the back of the car. But today that business is one of the most respected technology services companies in the world, coming in at number 58 on this year's SP 500 list with $445 million in annual sales, which is a very, very significant business. We all know how hard it is to grow to that size and then to keep it going. From the start, Harry said that his view was to build something for the long term, and long term indeed. 32 years later, he's refashioned the company into a cloud-powerful, what he calls the golden age of technology. The secret to the company's widely admired culture, openness and transparency, avoiding hierarchy, very difficult thing to do in any size organization, let alone a company of that size. Respecting the acknowledging individual contribution and integrity. Those ideals have paid off in deep and long-lasting customer, vendor, and employee relationships. Now, along the way, Harry has given back to the community, raising over $600,000 in its very own Green for Good program, which recycles IT assets and donates the proceeds to charity. We all need to do more of that. We all try to do some of it, but it's something you really have to dedicate yourself. So we think that is really something that they deserve some recognition for. And it's not all. He's also been instrumental in supporting Connected for Success, bringing internet online access and tools and resources to Toronto Community Housing and other charities. His advice for those looking to succeed in their own business: leave our ego at the door and be open-minded and treat people well. Please join me in congratulating Harry on our Executive of the Year Award for 2013.